Here we go. No, I'm not attacking you. I'm putting chill. Who's the smash? I'm too drunk to this shit, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
Imagine being so entitled that you think someone else's life belongs to you. That's the twisted reality behind these 3 devastating stories of women who simply said no and paid the ultimate price for it. In a world where we're taught that love should lift us up, these men chose to destroy lives because they couldn't handle rejection. These aren't just news headlines or statistics. They were real women with dreams, families, and futures ahead of them.
Just an all-around good person. Definitely somebody who didn't deserve to die like this.
They had the basic human right to choose who they wanted in their lives, but that choice was violently stolen from them by men who believed their bruised egos were more important than another person's right to live. These stories force us to confront an uncomfortable truth that for some women, simply rejecting someone's advances or leaving a relationship can become a death sentence. Samia and Samia Spain. Samia and Samia Spain were the kind of twins that made you believe in soul connections. They did everything together, wore the same clothes, styled their hair the same way, and even posed identically in photos. As their family friend put it, when you saw Samia, you saw Samia. That's just how close they were. Anyone who knew Samia would tell you about her smile first. She was that person who always found a reason to be happy, no matter what life threw at her. Smart, kind, and outgoing, she had big dreams of making it in the music industry. It wasn't just a hobby. Music was her first love. The twins were New York girls at heart. Though they'd moved to North Carolina when they were younger, the city kept calling them back. They missed the energy, the possibilities, everything about it. So they convinced their parents to let them return, ready to build their lives in the city they loved. But on March 16th, 2024, what should have been just another fun Saturday night turned into something unimaginable. The twins were out partying with friends, having the kind of carefree night that every 20-something deserves. Around 2:20 a.m., they stopped at Slope Natural Plus Bodega on 4th Avenue for some late-night snacks.
So I had walked in the deli to order food, and these guys were holding their door open for everybody. One of the guys had complimented the 2 girls that had walked in with their friends.
That's when everything changed. While they were outside the bodega, some guys approached their group. One of them started complimenting the twins, normal enough at first. But when he asked for Samia's number and she said no, something switched. Even when she tried to be nice about it, offering her Instagram handle instead, it wasn't enough. He couldn't handle the rejection, and what happened next shows just how deadly male entitlement can be when it turns violent.
Police say Kelly, who had too much to drink, flew into a rage when Samia would not give him her phone number. She and her sister did not know Kelly, had never seen him before. But to pacify him, she gave him her Instagram handle.
By the way, that "who had too much to drink" part, redundant. No matter how much you have to drink, you do not become a monster unless you already are one. Samia didn't even want to talk to him, but she didn't want things to escalate either. At this point, the boy followed Samia on Instagram, but when he asked Samia to follow him back, she said no, so he completely lost it.
Here we go. No, I'm not attacking you. I'm putting chill. Who's the smash? I'm too drunk to this shit, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
He started yelling and insulting the twins, and they were quick to respond with the same name-calling. The owner of the bodega heard this and realized the man was harassing the girls, so he asked him and his friend to leave. According to the girl who was with the twins, who remains anonymous, the boy walked away, still cussing at the twins.
And they said no, they weren't attracted, so he called them names. They called him names back. He walked down the block angry.
A few minutes later, he came back, but the owner of the bodega had locked the door and he could not get in.
And then a couple, like 2-3 minutes later, he comes up and starts banging and kicking on the glass door, trying to get in.
When the guy couldn't get his way, things spiraled fast. He started screaming and pounding on the bodega door, his rage so intense that the owner had locked everyone inside for safety. He eventually left, and everyone thought that was the end of it. The owner unlocked the door, thinking the danger had passed. But the moment the twins and their friends stepped outside, the man came charging back. Their brother, who'd been with them that night, tried to protect his sisters. He started arguing with the guy, telling him to back off. Then the attacker's friends jumped in and suddenly, it was a full-on fight. That's when the unthinkable happened. In the chaos, the rejected man targeted both sisters, attacking them viciously. Their friends rushed to help, doing everything they could. Someone took off their sweater to stop the bleeding, while another called 911. But you could tell right away that one of the twins had been hurt much worse than the other. When paramedics arrived, they found a horrific scene. They worked frantically to stabilize both sisters before rushing them to the hospital. Behind them, police tape went up around the bodega as forensics teams combed the area. On the ground lay the knife that had changed so many lives forever, all because one man couldn't accept being told no.
There's usually zero problems with
all over someone getting rejected.
Rejected simply, and they just escalated it. I don't know if they were sober or not, but it's just, this was unnecessary as hell.
After intense community pressure and his photos circulating on social media, 20-year-old V.O. Kelly turned himself in to the 7/8 precinct. The man who couldn't take no for an answer now faces murder charges, with investigators discovering he had a previous arrest for armed robbery. But for Samia's family, especially her twin Sania, no arrest can fill the void left behind. Their mother's words echo the raw pain of her loss.
I just want him to suffer every day like I am. I want him to wake up every day in a cell, just like I gotta wake up every day with my mind in a cell.
As Sania turned 20 without her other half this month, her family channels their grief into purpose, joining their community in a powerful message: no means no. They're fighting to ensure Samia's story becomes a catalyst for change, highlighting how deadly male entitlement can be, and demanding a world where women can safely reject unwanted advances without fearing for their lives. Alexis Garth. This next case is not about a stranger with a fragile ego, but with a toxic ex who could not let his loved one go.
Athens police say 26-year-old Alexis Garth died at Huntsville Hospital after being shot around 4 in the morning.
Sometimes the deadliest danger isn't a stranger on the street, it's the person who claims to love you. Alexis Laparian Garth's story shows just how quickly possessive love can turn fatal.
My sister was a kind, loving person. She cared nothing about the drama and all that. She cared about her family, her friends, her daughters.
At 26, Alexis was everything a young mom could be. Her sister remembers her as kind and loving, someone who stayed away from drama and poured all her love into her 2 daughters. Just look at those precious photo shoot pictures. You can see the joy radiating from Alexis as she holds her girls, who meant the world to her. She was building a good life, juggling roles as a customer service manager at Walmart, and running her own hair business on the side. She'd studied physical therapy at Calhoun Community College. Alexis was the kind of person who lit up every room, always ready to have fun, always looking out for her family.
This is Deep Wave. Come shop.
But behind her bright smile, Alexis was fighting a battle that too many women face. Her relationship with 20-year-old Kairouan Yarbrough, the father of her 8-month-old daughter, had turned dangerous. Throughout 2022, Alexis tried repeatedly to end things with him, but like many abusers, Kairouan wouldn't take no for an answer. The red flags were everywhere. Despite being only 20, Kairouan already had a violent past. He'd been convicted of 3 kids in 2019. But here's where the system failed Alexis. Instead of serious jail time, he got a suspended sentence and probation. By December 2022, he was free to go home for the holidays, free to find Alexis, free to make good on his threats.
Who's mommy's favorite girl in the world?
Fresh out of prison on December 2nd, Kairouan had one obsession: getting Alexis back. He showed up at her door with promises of a fresh start, and Alexis, likely hoping things would be different this time, reluctantly agreed to try again. But within weeks, his controlling behavior pushed her to end things for good, somewhere between Christmas and New Year's. New Year's Eve 2022 started with so much hope. Alexis spent it laughing with her mom, surrounded by the love of her family. But when Kairouan showed up to drive her home, no one knew these would be her final hours. After a quick stop to give her sister some forgotten keys at Buc-ee's, complete with New Year hugs and wishes, Alexis headed home. That's where everything went terribly wrong. The frantic phone call to her mom revealed Kairouan's explosive rage. His words, heard clearly in the background, still haunt her family today. "I'm going to kill her, the baby, kill you and kill myself." Alexis's mom immediately called 911, her heart racing as she sped to her daughter's house. But when police arrived, instead of surrendering, Kairouan made an unthinkable choice. He aimed his gun at his own 8-month-old daughter. In her final moments, Alexis showed the same fierce love that defined her life. She wrapped herself around her baby, shielding her from the bullets. She took 5 shots to save her daughter's life. As police tackled Kiruan, Alexis lay in the driveway of the home where, just 1 year earlier, she'd posed for photos full of hope for her future. Her baby survived, but by sunrise, this beautiful young mother was gone, another victim of a man who thought control was love.
County where one person is dead and another is behind bars, arrested and charged with capital murder following a shooting early this morning.
Just an all-around good person. Definitely somebody who didn't deserve to die like this.
What's worse, Alexis's 3-year-old daughter was also there when it all went down. She watched her mother lose her life at the hands of someone she saw as a stepdad.
She understands. My mommy died. My mommy sleep at the hospital forever.
Kiruan is facing a life without parole sentence, sure, but that does nothing to end the pain Alexis's family is feeling every single day. The pain her girls feel 24/7, knowing they are left without their loving mother forever. The devastating irony of Alexis's murder lies in its twisted logic. She rejected Kiruan precisely because of his violent, controlling behavior. Yet he saw her self-preservation as an unforgivable offense against his ego, a horrifying example of how abusers often punish women for trying to escape the very violence that drives them away. His lethal response to losing control reveals a chilling truth about DV. For men like Kiruan, their sense of ownership over their partners runs so deep that they'd rather destroy what they claim to love than accept a woman's right to say no. Celeste Manno. Here's a really scary story, one that tells us anyone can be an obsessive stalker with murderous intent, even the quiet guy in our office. In a world where restraining orders are supposed to protect women from their stalkers, Celeste Manno's bedroom should have been her sanctuary. Instead, in the early hours of November 16th, 2020, it became the scene of her murder, a devastating reminder of how our systems fail to protect women from men who refuse to accept rejection. Luai Sacco had no right to know where Celeste lived, no right to have her number, and legally, thanks to her restraining order, no right to be anywhere near her. But armed with a hammer and a kitchen knife, he shattered more than just her bedroom window that night. In 2.5 minutes, an eternity when you're fighting for your life, he stabbed her 23 times. One strike to her heart was all it took to rob a young woman of her future, all because she dared to be happy with someone else. The timeline is chilling in its simplicity. Celeste posts a photo with her new boyfriend, Chris Ridsdale. Hours later, her mother, Aggie DeMauro, wakes to the sound of breaking glass in her daughter's final moments.
It's like something I'd just never heard. It was like a million pieces of glass just crashing.
As paramedics arrived, they found a scene that no mother should ever have to face. Aggie, desperate to save her child, already knowing in her heart it was too late. In a final act of twisted entitlement, Sacco drove straight to the police station and turned himself in, telling officers with bone-chilling casualness, "You know what happened. It's your fault. She's dead. She's dead. Go have a look." His words reveal the dark heart of stalking violence, the belief that a woman's rejection somehow justifies her murder. At its core, Celeste Manno's murder reveals how quickly a professional boundary can become a death sentence, when systems meant to protect women fail at every turn. Her only interaction with Luai Sacco had been completely mundane. She was simply doing her job when she escorted him from their workplace after his firing in June 2019. That brief moment of professionalism was all it took to spark an obsession that would ultimately claim her life.
That following Saturday, she goes, "Mum, have a guess who's just messaged me?" I said, "Who?" She's "The guy I told you about the other day, the one that left my work."
Within days, Sacco's fixation began to show through Instagram messages. His words revealed a dangerous entitlement. "I'm totally infatuated with you. You're all I think about." When Celeste clearly stated her discomfort and asked him to stop, Sacco's response exposed the horrifying progression of stalking. Each blocked account led to a new one, sometimes within minutes. What began as unwanted declarations of love devolved into what Celeste's mother Aggie described as the most vulgar messages she'd ever read. The system's first failure came when Celeste and Aggie initially sought help. At the police station, their concerns were dismissed, with officers failing to even record basic details about their stalker. It would take 6 more months of escalating harassment, including Sacco parking outside their home and sending threatening messages, before they found an officer who took them seriously. A personal safety intervention order briefly seemed like salvation. But when Sacco breached it with a 3-page letter begging Celeste to withdraw the charges, the system's response was inadequate. His manipulative words, "Only you can end this now, Celeste," foreshadowed the horrific choice he would ultimately make when faced with her final rejection. In his twisted mind, his actions were on her. The timeline between that breach and Celeste's murder represents a catastrophic failure of protection. On November 16, 2020, just hours after Celeste posted a photo with her new boyfriend, Sacco, armed with a knife he'd bought the day after she reported his breach, he took the life of a young woman who had done everything right, documented the harassment, sought help, obtained legal protection, and still ended up dead. The devastating truth is that Celeste's story isn't unique. It's a stark reminder of how restraining orders and intervention systems can become mere pieces of paper when faced with a stalker's deadly obsession. Her murder demands we confront an uncomfortable reality. Our current systems for protecting women from escalating stalking behavior aren't just inadequate, they're fatally flawed.
And he did this under my watch. That's something I have to live with.
I'll never forget the phone call. That she was gone. That he'd killed her. That stalker.
For 3 agonizing years, Celeste's family endured the grinding machinery of a justice system that seemed to prioritize procedure over their healing. Each court appearance reopened wounds that had barely begun to scab over, forcing them to relive their nightmare, while Sacco attempted to manipulate the system one final time. His claim of mental impairment, a defense strategy Aggie had predicted, revealed the calculating nature that had characterized his entire pattern of stalking, but the evidence told a different story. This was no crime of passion or mental break. The premeditation was clear in the timing, purchasing his murder weapon the very day after Celeste reported his breach of the intervention order. It was the final, terrible proof that each escalation in his behavior had been a conscious choice. When the sentence finally came down on February 29, 2024, it marked not just the end of a legal process, but a devastating commentary on how systems meant to protect women often force their families to wait years for even a semblance of closure. Luai Sacco will be in prison for 36 years. He will be out in his 70s. He will still have a chance at life, and he still has a life, something he robbed Celeste of over simple rejection. The stories of Samia, Alexis, and Celeste illuminate a haunting truth about our society, that for too many women, the simple human right to say no, to reject unwanted attention, to leave toxic relationships, to choose their own path, can become a death sentence when toxic masculinity collides with systematic failures of protection. Their lives were stolen not just by individual acts of violence, but by a culture that too often treats women's autonomy as negotiable and their safety as optional. Yet through their stories, we can honor their memories by demanding better systems of protection, teaching the next generation about healthy boundaries, and standing firm in the fundamental truth that every person deserves the right to say no without paying for that choice with their life. Leave a comment in their honor, and before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you soon.